Welcome to the next exciting episode of our Transformers podcast. I'm Sean,
Charlie.
And Thomas.
and this is
Sparkcast.
Sparkcast.
Alright, so we have a lovely treat here for everyone. This is the Season 2, Episode 3, or Episode 18 overall, of the original Generation 1 Transformers. This episode is called City of Steel. Well, first of all, I realize that a lot of people easily abbreviate stuff, like, say, for this, they would go SO2, EO, like 3 to label this, like, all the time when you try to look for stuff online.
Oh, the naming convention.
The naming conventions.
For
But for some reason, I always label everything by episode number regardless of season, which doesn't help when season 2 just says episode 1 again. I'm like, all right. So.
Well, I'm going to side with everybody else because you definitely want to put in the seasons too.
Yeah, I usually have to put the season in abbreviation. Season 2, episodes 1 through like 12, but it's really overall episodes, 18 through 26 or something.
Yeah, I was confused earlier. Like, I was looking at the way the person annotated it who posted the video, and City of Steel was episode 19, yet it's season 2, episode 3.
Whoa, he was wrong. This is episode 18.
Oh, he put 19.
Oh, no, it is 19. Never mind.
Okay.
I was wrong.
That's only one off anyway, so... But yeah, I'm like, can you make up your mind about the way you want to annotate this? Is this all one big block, or are you going to break it into seasons?
When you have some things that are ridiculous, like I was watching Star Trek Voyager, which no one should watch, by the way. And
I've been watching it too.
Oh my god, I'm gonna come over there and steal all your DVDs or whatever you're watching it so you can't finish it. Don't do it. Don't suffer like I did.
I'm gonna do it.
Where are you in the series?
Oh man, I got to I don't even know where I am, but I'm in a place where there's just a lot of, what's her name? 7 of 8 or no?
Oh, I haven't gotten there. You're above me? Oh my god. All right.
Yeah, I got to that part.
When I got to the episode where they have a whole episode around this alien Neelix character, and I'm like, how are you going to make me care about this guy, and I still don't care about hardly anyone on the crew except the Doctor?
Oh god, I hate Neelix so much. I think other people
that one episode actually made you care about him because he's like, oh man, I'm going to be tossed off the ship and be lonely again.
I don't like him. He's supposed to be cheery and whatever. He just gets on my nerves.
But anyway, so don't watch it, even though you're already above me on it. I don't know why I'm watching it. But anyway, my point was, the episodes are in air date order, but they're numbered in... No, they're not in my air date. They're by the way they were developed.
Production order versus air date.
Yeah, they're by air date, but the development date is on them too. So sometimes you'll see like this one episode was supposed to actually take place 4 episodes ago but didn't air till then. Not that it matters in this show, but it's just a weird way to do it. And then of course in a series like Star Trek you also have Stardate order, but who wants to get into that mess too? But anyway,
Striving to save the world from the evil Decepticons, the heroic Autobots are led by Optimus Prime. He's more than meets the eye, he's a robot in disguise.
Generation 2, Season 5, and Japanese differences. Let's see here. Where'd you go? Japanese differences.
So this is what? City of Steel that we're getting ready to talk about?
Yeah. In the Japanese version, I actually noticed 3 changes. When Optimus is falling into the pit and being caught by the Constructicon, he's actually falling going, no! Like, it's very dramatic. Like, oh my god, this is the death fall. I'm not going to recover from this. When his eyes flash, they added sound effects to it.
So you're saying this is in the this was not in the American version?
I don't think so. Or maybe it was so low I didn't hear it, because Rhino DVDs have some of that problem too, with large and underutilized sound effects. But the funniest is, after they dismantle Optimus Prime, they dump him into pieces, and he can't make a noise, right? His head is severed. So unless you put two little things together, then he can talk. But it's when they dump him, they added a ah, as if it was really painful for him to be dumped out of the dump truck onto the floor in pieces, even though he technically shouldn't be able to talk yet. And then the funniest thing is later in the episode, I don't know if this is in the English, but the cars jump over all the taxi cabs on a ramp. Well, they make their own ramp, and then they go, Yahoo!
Wait, was there actually a ramp there? Because
no, they just flew.
They just flew over.
They just flew over because
taxis.
because writing. But yeah, and I couldn't tell the cuts in that one. But those were any differences I noticed.
Sarcasm not appreciated.
And as for the writer, we've actually already talked about him. This was written by Douglas Booth, who wrote many of the early episodes, such as Roll for It and Fire on the Mountain. And so see our previous episode of those for info about him.
Me, Grimlock, no like you.
What we liked and didn't like about this episode, and random general nonsense. I'll just start with one thing that I thought was funny is Laserbeak apparently has, a telekinesis laser or something? He just shoots a manhole, it flies up into the air, then he goes under it, and it just goes back over. I'm like, oh, okay. And I think he even does that to the door, or is it like... I don't know. I was just like, what is going on with this guy's power?
When he was going in the sewer of New York, I just thought Ninja Turtles. Just the whole look of that scene. I was like, ooh, is this going to be a Ninja Turtles crossover? He's going in the sewer.
Well, that hasn't happened yet. That could happen in the future, since Transformers is just doing every crossover ever with IDW Comics now.
Strange that a robot bird would just choose to lift a manhole cover and just go into the sewer. Okay. That was weird.
Yeah, Charlie, I got like a similar vibe. Actually, at the beginning of this episode, like the very beginning, it's basically, well, I guess I should say, this whole episode takes place in New York City. Megatron has decided to go to New York City to perform some kind of excavation plan underground to basically kidnap the Empire State Building and remake it into some type of transformer spire that they're going to use to start to transform the rest of the city. So naturally, the episode, as with most anything in the 80s that's related to New York, you're going to see basically a wide shot of the Manhattan skyline. And chances are, if it's in the 80s, you're probably going to see the Twin Towers. So that's definitely something that's definitely going to happen for sure. But then right after that, it cuts to Laserbeak flying through the city and then hitting down into the sewers, which also was like, oh yeah, I guess it's the 80s, it's New York. You're probably going to see, if you see sewers, you're definitely thinking Ninja Turtles.
The funniest thing is, I remember, Energon Armada, the Autobots and Decepticons are in the tunnels, and it's built for them. And I'm like, that's going to happen in this episode too. And we go straight to, like, when the Autobots get to the sewers, they're large enough to walk through the entire sewer system. Sometimes the sewer system looks twice as large than they are, and I'm like, wow, I guess they had plenty of room. Could fit Skyfire in here.
Well, not only that, I mean, the Transformers are big, but they're not skyscraper size. So the sewer system was built large enough to house the Empire State Building and some.
Well, no, that was their secret base.
But the base was so massive. It went all the way under Central Park. How close is the Empire State Building to Central Park?
Apparently right next door, according to this one. But I know it's at least 10 blocks south of Central Park in the real world.
Yeah, it just seemed like when they were looking for Optimus Prime, they were like still in the secret base. But I was like, dude, that's a huge secret base they built just so fast underneath New York.
Yeah, I have so much to say about that in Stupid Films.
Yeah, something it keeps coming up, and I just keep ignoring it. I try not to focus on that particular point.
I want to mention two things. The first is I like the quote from Megatron, "I want you working, not nagging," and then they just keep nagging.
Oh my god.
Thomas, where have you heard of this idea about stealing the Empire State Building before?
Stealing the Empire State Building? I don't.
Do you happen to remember some children's books we reviewed some 2 years prior?
Oh no.
I was gonna say Superman. That sounds like a Superman plot.
Are we getting ready to crack open old scars, Sean? Are we really about to do this?
Charlie, there was a children's book I had growing up, which is why I remember all of the plot for it, is basically the first 4 pages is just the origin of the Transformers, and then the next it's his own original story, and it's about Megatron making some shell company to create like 98 different work sites around the world just so he can steal 98 different buildings all across the world and hold the world for ransom. But in this episode, he doesn't have that such long-term goals. He's like, you know what? Empire State Building's fine. One building's enough. And in that book, he also steals the Empire State Building. And that episode was released a year before this episode was aired. And it was a completely different writer. So either this might just be another case of two people having the same idea. Like, I doubt the guy read the book and said, I can make an episode based on this theme.
Why? Why do you doubt that?
Well, you know, writers don't just steal from other people. Unless it's
Uh,
themselves,
Don't.
as we'll see next episode. But
I mean, they could take inspiration
yeah,
because I don't believe this episode was that similar to what happened in the book. This episode seemed it was its own thing. Like the central premise might the spark for this episode. They could have pulled that from that book for sure.
the only thing it has in common.
Yep.
And in that book, nobody knows who the Constructicons are. They technically show up for the first time in that book.
That's weird. I wonder. Yeah, they must have had. There must have been something, some kind of source or loose outline of some of this stuff that the book
Yeah.
pulled from.
I'm wondering if that happens to in some of the other books we'll see if any of the ideas were used similarly. Because I'm noticing right now, I'm watching two things. I was reading a Star Trek comic book, of the old Gold Key comics, and I was reading one of the stories and goes, there's something very familiar about this plot line. And I looked it up online for the animated series and realized it's an animated series episode plot almost verbatim the year before the actual animated episode aired, and nobody had ever commented about it or said anything about it. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, the coincidence is there were just way too many similarities for the entire plot for it not to be either the same writer that was involved, because the story was almost exactly the same.
Well, I guess what happened here was not as blatant as what happened. I guess to bring this back to making the show a Star Trek podcast, wasn't there the animated series had the V'ger satellite plot that the one of the movies
No, that was
actually used?
the original series actually did. A season 2 episode was exactly like a V'ger movie.
But there wasn't any connection to the animated series with that either. That didn't happen.
I don't remember, but that's not this podcast. but I do want to say something funny. Is I've actually been rewatching for the first time since childhood, like when I was 2 years old, the He-Man cartoons, right? And I had the same thing happen. I'm watching some episode about dragon eggs, and I'm like, there's something very familiar about this in my subconscious. So I go down in my box and look through all my books, and I find there's a He-Man book about dragon eggs that I had when I was a kid. But the stories are completely different and can't exist in the same continuity in any way, because they just deal with the same theme, dragon eggs, but used in completely different ways. And they were two different writers, and it was just really weird. It was just like, it even had like a similar title, but it was not the same story.
Yeah, I guess that wouldn't shock me too much. They're probably pulling from some other third party inspiration. I mean, dragon eggs. I mean, I feel like you could throw a dart and you'll hit some fantasy book that's about dragon eggs, that's core to the plot or something.
It was just funny because they're like, with this one egg, we can train it and make it a mega beast or whatever for good or for evil. In the actual cartoon, Skeletor just steals dragon eggs and just chucks them at buildings and like at different kingdoms so that they grow instantly and just start attacking the kingdom. I'm just like, all right, completely different plot. But anyway,
British book we just reviewed last time, the British Transformers with I can't remember the the madame's name who is who at the lab
C,
creating
Madam C, or
Madam
Seal.
C.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that-
I mean, that guy had to have some kind of like just bank of some slightly transformer related information or something. It
Yeah.
honestly seemed like he'd never watched the animated series or and just kind of threw some stuff together, but I don't know if that's true, but it just didn't really go with the feel of Transformers.
Sorry, my cat is just came up to the room and just started staring at me. What's up? Oh, now she's looking at herself, so now
Food,
she
give
doesn't
me
care
food.
anymore. No, I
That's what
fed them
the cat
already. I
said.
actually fed them early just in case I missed it during the
Give me a
podcast.
snack. Pet me.
Well, she probably wants to play with her laser toy because she usually wants to play with me with that once a day. Sorry, kitty. After the podcast. But anyway, one thing I thought was pretty funny is that when you get to the Autobot base, you can see through the ceiling into the mountainside. I was like, how long you guys been here? Have you not just made like a freaking ceiling for your spaceship? I assume they're just reusing all the backgrounds from season 1 to save money, but it's just really ridiculous that they haven't bothered to seal their. You know, some Decepticons could just go to the top of the building, slide right in, and just do whatever they want. You know, and I'm just like, well, don't you guys have to worry about insects and stuff coming in? And then I wonder, did the Autobots, Decepticons, even worry about human insects on Earth? Do they like, are they a problem? Are they annoyance? Do they get into their electronics? But now I'm just like overthinking this.
Well, apparently, they're pretty sewer proof. They don't mind going into some toxic undercity sludge.
And waterproof because they like they drove there on their water tires.
That's how they take care of their insect problem. They just flood their whole bodies. They just wash all that stuff out.
Yeah. What did you think of Optimus being able to pull pieces of his body toward himself? Is that a power that everyone has, or just Optimus because he's so awesome?
It is a kind of a generic power that I think don't all sentient robots have that power to like call out to their arms and legs if they get chopped off, so they still
I
Oh
think
yeah,
this
still
is the
function
manipulate
only
it.
as
episode that will.
killing mechanisms.
I think this is the only episode we'll ever see that ever happen.
Well, that's because they're not allowed to air anything like that again. Just the idea that he was decapitated and his body just in pieces all over, just dumped on the floor. To me, that was kind of like shocking. Like when I saw that, my jaw dropped. I was like, "Wow, that is something." And to me, that visual was worse than anything that happened in a Transformers movie. People
Yeah.
talk about the Transformers movie breaking kids' hearts and making them cry. Like that visual of just decapitated, like wires hanging, and then just pieces of his arm just completely shattered. And
I thought it was done.
it probably had a bigger impact on me because it just happened so fast. It was like, we got you, and now you're just dead. It wasn't any kind of build up. You couldn't prepare. It was just immediately like, you're done.
Oh man.
But in the movie, he's actually got damage to all those parts. And here it's just, you took your limbs off, you can connect them again. But I guess if you take too much damage, and it's a good thing that Optimus leaves the Matrix hanging up on his wall in his bedroom at the Ark.
So I guess when he was broken up into pieces, he did tell Megatron that his desire to defeat him is basically going to keep him alive. So I guess to answer your question, Sean, I would probably say unless there's other Autobots that feel as strongly about defeating Megatron as Optimus does, they probably don't have those powers. It's probably just Optimus conveniently.
How funny was that too, where like his arms are still active and they just grab Megatron and trip
Knock
him.
him over. Yeah.
I'm surprised Starscream didn't be like, oh crap, Megatron's down. Starscream. Well now, Megatron's getting back up.
And I guess my question is, well, I guess I kind of answer my own question. With that happening, can Transformers just live without a spark? I mean, how do you just take him apart completely and he's just alive, functioning, don't really seem to be that that harmed outside of just his body's all over the place.
Well, it happens a lot because I don't know if you remember in the Transformers movie, Galvatron actually explodes Ultra Magnus, and they can repair him because he's only got damage to, like, I guess the joints that exploded him. So he's fine. They can just put him back together. But I guess it depends on all the stuff that's damaged, if you're really dead or not. Unless you're Optimus, then the writers find a way to bring you back somehow.
Yeah, I guess I think back on the show in some of the guys who just get parts blown up or holes in their chest. I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean,
Guess all of his parts had a bit of the spark in him. It's like the
Mhm.
Force.
The so when I was a kid, I used to watch all this stuff about New York and TV, movies. And now that I'm old enough, I've actually been to New York multiple times. It's just funny to watch stuff like this now when it's like a regular version of New York that doesn't make sense with reality, but it's just kind of like, here's the background, here's the Statue of Liberty, and then they're like, well, they say to meet in Central Park, but all they do is have a quick skirmish and then that's it. But I'm like, I doubt any of that was modeled to look after any of the real Central Park during the 80s.
Or not. I've never been to New York.
Oh my god. You need to go
Yeah.
now before the Delta ravages the world.
I just feel that well, it's already been ravaged apparently. Like
Yeah.
it'll never be the same, but I feel like I'd be disappointed by it. I'd like to keep that 80s image of what New York is in my mind. Because when I went to London, I felt pretty much crushed. I'm like, that's Big Ben? I thought it was bigger.
Well, the first time I went to New York, I had an internship in Congers, New York. So I was only a less than 10-minute ride to the subway, and then I could just take a 15-minute subway into the city because it was like across the border in Sleepy Hollow, I remember. So I remember my other intern friends and I, like, we went into there a lot, every other weekend at least, because we'd never been to New York City before. Because I remember the first day we were there, did all the touristy stuff. Same with the second day, but then by the third day, you're like, you don't even do anything. You just go there and walk around, or go visit a comic store, or have like one plan, and then everything else is just wandering stuff because you're just there all the time now. It just becomes kind of normal. It was just kind of a fun summer to go to New York all the time.
yeah, I mean, I guess I've been there a few times, and it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it depends on the era of media that you're watching. You know, if I think about modern entertainment covering New York feels like that. The older stuff, no, it doesn't feel like that much of all. I mean, maybe there's
No.
little pockets you can go to get that vibe a little bit, but generally, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, like there's some fun things too. Like I played the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, and they actually like make Times Square look exactly like Times Square looks. And I was like, but at first I didn't know, I wasn't up to date on my New York because I'm like, what the hell are all these, red chairs doing here? And then when I finally went like a year later, after probably a decade not being there, they had actually changed Central
Times
Park
Square.
to have the whatever that thing is there, I forget. And like the game had actually tried to make it look exactly like it, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah,
And it's-
definitely modern stuff, modern entertainment. Yeah, they cover it. I mean, that's basically what New York is.
And it's funny because it'll only be like that spot in a game like Spider-Man that's open world. None of the other alleyways or anything look anything like any of the other alleyways in New York. As long as you got like those 3 buildings and then like Central Park just made up however they want it to be in the game, then you're good, I guess.
You
Like,
see anything that looks like Ghostbusters there? That's what I hope for. I just want the streets to look like Ghostbusters, but I know that probably doesn't exist anymore. If it ever looked like that to begin with.
so one thing that was kind of ridiculous is Ironhide has a grapple hook arm, and I'm like, sure, whatever at this point. This is like his 6th or 7th power already. I can't keep track of how many freaking powers this guy has. He's like, oh, here's my liquid nitrogen gun. Here's my radar not gun. And like, here's my flamethrower. Like, sure, everything exists inside his arm. I guess that's just what I'm supposed to believe anymore.
Well, why is him having so many powers a problem? but you don't have any problem with Optimus constantly getting new powers.
Oh, he just has the one now, okay, of summoning his body parts that he'll never use
Hey,
again.
he can summon a cyber axe.
Oh, okay. Well, no one bothered to use that anymore after the pilot, as if it doesn't exist. Yet when they made that video game, the whole concept of all his weapons is like all different axes. And I'm sorry, Thomas, but they're all climbing. Optimus, Ratchet, and I guess Ironhide. And then like
Who's
all of a sudden
Ironhide?
Starscream, Skywarp, and Thundercracker are flying at them, and all it takes is one laser blast each from each of them, and boom, they're down and they fly right through the building. I'm like, wow. That
I
was
don't know. Well, actually, I don't know if it was because I'm watching a different version or what, but to me, I wanted to ask about that because basically what happened was the Flyers come in, they shoot at the three Autobots, but then the Flyers immediately just fly through the building.
yeah, well you see them
You
shoot
hear Ratchet say it only takes one shot, but then nobody does anything, and the Flyers just fly straight through the building, like they just basically kamikaze and knock themselves out.
yeah, well like you can tell that they shot laser blasts because I think Ratchet shoots 2 and Ironhide shoots 1, so that's 3 blasts for 3 of them. And I think you hear the sound effect but don't actually see the animation. It's supposed to indicate they've been hit because when they come out the other side, all 3 of them are smoking where they got hit by a laser blast, you would assume, in the back. And
Yeah.
but it wasn't animated well enough to show you what was happening.
Yeah, to me, I just assumed that of course you fly through a building, like you're gonna be messed up. So that's
Which reminds me, I don't know if I should say this now, or apparently this animation studio was known for cutting a lot of corners. The South Korean animation studio. They'd done a lot of work on different shows, but they were fired from Batman the animated series because their work was too subpar.
that's why Batman the animated series is the best cartoon. They don't sell for that kind of crap.
Yeah.
Transformers will suffer through that for seasons at a time.
Seasons? I think you mean its entire existence on the 3 years.
Oh man.
But there was a funny moment. I like when Ratchet and Ironhide are just sitting there and they hear Megatron above them and they just look at each other and smile. And they just shoot up above him and he just falls down through the rest of the entire building.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I thought that was pretty funny. They're just like, we got him. And then he just falls all the way to the bottom of the building, defeated.
Speaking of Ironhide, what about that? When they were in Central Park, they just arrived and guess Rumble, and I don't know what the other one's called. We start pounding the ground. It's just funny that Ironhide just couldn't take it. He just falls right over instantly. No reaction, just man down pretty much.
Well, isn't he the guy that in the first episode is like bangs into the ark when they first get attacked and is like, "Oh, I'm leaking fluid," and because I remember Thomas was like, "How are they so durable for like battles?" And then he just like nudges against the console and starts bleeding.
He just falls over like a wooden soldier. Just he couldn't help himself. The ground was shaking. So yeah,
I'll
man
have
down.
something to bring up about that in a later episode with regards to that earthquake attack. But who is that other character that's basically the blue version of Rumble?
Oh, well, that's the weird thing. Was I wrong? I was like, he's not supposed to be blue, right? Isn't he purple and blue? Here he was blue.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, there was a blue one. I'm saying, and I was saying to myself, oh yeah, the red one, that's Rumble. But no,
Yeah.
Rumble's purple.
Yeah, he's supposed to be, I think, purple-blue, but here he was definitely blue-blue through, like, an entire scene.
Okay, so I was thinking the red one was Rumble, the blue one was a new guy, but Rumble wasn't
Had it the
colored
other
correctly
way
at
around.
all.
New guy.
And
I
then now the blue guy is actually Rumble, so who's the red guy?
I just assumed the
Uh.
blue guy was Rumble because I just figured, oh, he's some shade of something cool. But
But that color was carried throughout the episode. Like he showed up
Oh,
at the
yeah.
beginning and then at the
Yeah.
end, and it was the blue guy.
What are you looking at? Is there an insect in my room? Or are you just looking at the lights reflecting? Okay. Anyway, So do you guys have any other stuff you want to share about the episode? Random likes, dislikes?
Yeah, what's
Oh,
up with
yeah.
the I guess well probably
Oh,
all the
that's so good.
Transformers apparently. Why do they just have key components just right there on the front of their chest, basically?
Oh, like Hound?
That could just be, you know, attacked or targeted, and that's like a one-hit kill KO on them. So when Optimus was falling and he landed in the dump truck, Megatron ran up immediately and just basically held something over Optimus's stomach and basically said that your motor relay connection has been severed. And Megatron barely did anything. He basically placed I don't know, some kind of screwdriver or knife
Yeah.
or something on top of him, and that was it. He was immediately incapacitated.
Yeah, like why don't they have in war, like, you know how people carry daggers? Why don't the Transformers carry those?
Yeah,
For
either
close
fight
quarters
that,
combat.
yeah, try to do that and target that way every single time, or why aren't they wearing armor, or why aren't those parts moved somewhere else?
Yeah, just shielded.
And it just seemed way too convenient for
Uh,
him to fall in and then immediately, oh, there's nothing, you couldn't even react. I felt like they could have at least tried to, like, you know, let Optimus fall in, the Decepticons or the Constructicons hold him down while Megatron comes up and severs the connection. But
or even put on him like some fake thing like, Optimus, these are Energon infused tri-Cybertronian metal chains. You'll never break free of these.
yeah, or have the knife thing kind of like stab into him or something instead of just like just tap him with it and it's just done.
Definitely makes it easier for using your imagination when you're outside playing, as a kid. Like, I would like play Transformers with my cousins in the yard. That would make it totally easy if all the components were just right there on front. You don't really have to think about it. You can deprogram your cousin by, like just pointing.
Well,
And
I will have something to say about this particular point in a later episode.
Okay.
I have a series of questions. So to me, this was a very silly episode where it's just like there's so much going on. I feel like there could be discussions about most of these points. I guess we could try to move through these quickly. I don't necessarily need a lengthy response to these.
Is one of them about Alligator Optimus Prime? Who's
So
in this episode?
first question
course.
is Alligator Khan or Reptilian Bot? Is he recognized as the first Beast Wars Transformer? I guess he never actually transformed, so I guess he doesn't count as a Transformer. The battle taxis / Decepticabs they were called.
Yeah.
Does merchandise exist for them, or is
That was so ridiculous.
Oh,
Like,
no.
what is this?
it's just this army of cabs filing
It's like
in?
that was just something funny
all
for
in
New York
formation.
for like kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
it was silly.
All
Like,
they
what does
were
New York
cabs
have a
with
lot
guns
of
on top.
cabs?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, what does New York have a lot of cabs? I mean,
I didn't
that's
see
the first
see
thing that comes to
one
mind.
slice of pizza. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear one joke about pizza.
we had alligators in the sewer. We all know that.
Well,
joke.
that was actually
Yeah.
pretty clever. Yeah. Well, so Optimus, I guess he kind of got himself back together, but they were still tracking down the rest of his parts. So at this point in the story, he was missing his arm. So he didn't have any weapons. His weapon was attached to his missing arm. So he decided to transform to like ram something, I guess. So when he transformed back into vehicle mode, a chunk was missing out the back of his cab, which
Yeah,
I guess would
which
be where his arm
miraculously
was.
reappeared.
Yeah.
as he was
Realism.
driving.
Was that so? You say that that's realism, Sean. Is that accurate to the toy? When you transform the Optimus toy into vehicle mode, do his arms connect to the back of his cab? Is that where they're placed?
Hold on, let me see right here on this figure I have. Maybe the back of the picture will show me. Yeah, no, his arms are right there at the bottom to form his front light things. So
Oh, at the bottom. Okay, well these were at the back, like the top back of the cab.
Hmm.
So I guess it's a little different, and maybe there's different iterations with different toys or something like that.
yeah.
So, also, did they really have to make a sentry gun using Optimus's arm? Like they couldn't find any other guns to just do it that way. Like
I
they had
think
to
that
be
was
Optimus's arm.
I think that's just Megatron being evil to be like, ha, now you've been made into one of my weapons.
Yeah, I just thought that was just another silly thing.
I'm surprised they didn't do anything with his legs. Like they were just sitting there. Like he didn't make them into anything. It's probably because the episode has already had too much stuff jammed into it.
Yeah, they had to make time for the King Kong joke sequence
Yeah,
Oh,
God.
God.
on top of the fake Empire State Building. Also,
Yeah.
Buzzsaw, like, was he always around? It's always been Laserbeak, 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 but then all of a sudden Buzzsaw is now involved
Buzzsaw shows up this season.
in future episodes, or has he really been in previous episodes?
I don't
remember
know if
him.
I don't
being
remember if he
used at
was or
all.
not, but I do know he shows up now in these seasons, and he was definitely in the comic when it came out. I don't know if they actually used him in the beginning of the cartoon.
So yeah, I mean, I guess that other cassette transformer was used, the red/blue Rumble. So
Oh, I
I
remember
guess
why
they were trying to
because
use more of his cassettes more often.
I remember they didn't animate Buzzsaw because Buzzsaw came with Soundwave, so they wanted to feature Laserbeak in season 1, so you'd go out and buy the separate Laserbeak.
Oh, that's kind of crappy. You buy a toy and you're excited to see your toy in the show, and he's never there.
And instead, you get the one that's not on the show. But don't worry, he'll be there in season 2.
All right, and why are we seeing flying Autobots again? Like, why is it so hard to just pick a side with that? Either the Autobots can't fly at all, and they always need to get lifts, or just make every Transformer fly. Like, why would that be? Would that be
who
such
flew
a big
this
deal?
time?
I don't remember his name.
Are you
It was
talking, was it next episode, or there was one in this one?
there was one in this episode. The guy who
Yeah.
took down Starscream, because
Oh.
Starscream, the Flyers.
No. He didn't fly. He super jumped.
No, they can't super
That's
jump.
It did look that way. Like it looked like more of a jump than a fly.
Starscream was basically half the height of the Empire State Building. They could jump that high.
Well, maybe he has this piston legs.
Why did they need to use a grappling hook if they could jump up half the building?
Hey, stop with the logic. My brain circuits can't handle it.
Make them fly. It doesn't hurt anything. Why can't they all just fly? Why would that be a problem?
Just wait till next episode where they randomly fly for 2 scenes.
Oh, great.
All right,
Well,
that's enough
They
for
can't
me.
have rocket boosters and piston legs. Come on.
About 10 episodes later, Ironhide's going to have a rocket booster arm. It's going to be his new power.
Back to that gator in the sewer scene. What I was thinking of, did the Decepticons make Optimus's body parts into a gator, like, and just put it down there? Or, I mean, Megatron basically said, "Hey, you could do whatever you want with these spare rods. I'll just keep the head."
Are
Did
you
they just-
saying that they cyberized an existing alligator?
I-
There was an alligator that they turned into a cyborg, and then I guess the Autobots just murdered it.
I just thought they made an evil. Did they make an evil gator bot, or did they just flush Optimus's body parts down the potty and they formed this themselves?
Well, when he got his
they-
arm back, you saw all those other random parts. Half of
Right.
the alligator wasn't actually from his parts. It was like other random parts that the Constructicons had lying around.
Okay, so I
Like,
guess
there was that one-
off camera.
There was that one weird scene where he just picks up a car and shoves it into Mixmaster, and out comes Steel Beam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the Constructicons that well, so I was like, oh, he could just do that. Just like, I'm just gonna make this matter anything else I want to make.
I guess he just melted it all down into a liquid and then formed it super fast somehow as he shot it out of the back. I don't know.
But yeah, as far as the alligator, I guess apparently robot, maybe Madam C was just off camera and she decided instead of one pig robot, I'm gonna make one alligator robot and sent it off to Megatron.
That's a plausible explanation for. I made that. Yeah. Pig
Mhm.
robots. Oh my god.
So the next sequence we have, Thomas, Charlie, is animation errors. Ooh, boy.
Yeehaw.
I got a lot on this too. Megatron's face was colored full gray for like 10 seconds during one of his speeches. I noticed that. We already talked about Rumble being 2 blues instead of blue and purple. But I
Which
remember
was
there's
the
one
only
part.
one that I picked up, but I guess I didn't pick up in the right way.
what happened is Optimus sees Ironhide and says, "That's the way to cool it." And I'm like, what are you talking about, Optimus? Because you can tell, like, Ironhide stops doing something with his arm, as if he was just putting out a fire or something with his water gun or his nitro gun or whatever other liquid gun he has. I guess they didn't animate that scene, but they recorded it because that's clearly, like, responding to something else.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar. I feel like I remember something like that, and I guess I didn't think anything of it because I didn't see a fire. Oh, was that just a joke I didn't get or something?
Did you guys notice there were a lot of size issues with the Transformers? Like, in the beginning, they're like before, when you first see the Decepticon base, that one Constructicon drives up to the base, drives up onto the thing that will eventually hold the Empire State Building, but when he drives up, they just start blowing up the picture of him or drawing him bigger, and he gets too big, and it looks ridiculous. And they corrected in the Japanese version, which makes me think this is just an error in the Rhino DVDs. But there's another one that's really weird where after the taxicab battle, due to the perspective, I think Prowl and Sunstreaker are changing. And Sunstreaker is in the foreground, but as he's transforming, his head is in the background, yet he's still got these giant feet sticking out into the front. But then they suddenly transform, and now he's standing in the background, even though his car was parked in the foreground. And it's just like, what?
Well, that sounds wild. Like, how did I miss that? I guess, did it happen quickly?
Oh,
Is that
yeah, it
why?
happens within the span of like 2 seconds.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, but the most hilarious, I don't know if you guys caught this. They're like, an alligator bot, quick, everybody run. And then they proceed to walk as casually as possible away from the robot.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the whole thing with the alligator was just really screwed up anyway. There's just too much there to pick on.
Yeah. And there were some weird audio glitches too. Like Sideswipe was voicing a line for one of the Constructicons, and I was like, why is he saying something that's clearly evil? Is he actually the same voice actor as one of the Constructicons? They just forgot to add the audio mix, or did they just really screw this up and accidentally write Sideswipe instead of the Constructicon, and then they just had to use it and hope no one noticed? Because they also do that with Frenzy in the subway. He's trying to ram the Autobots, but he talks with Rumble's voice, and then starts speaking in his own voice, I think, or he starts out as Rumble's color, then changes into Frenzy's color. I can't remember which one anymore. When they were in the sewers and they caught the alligator, they're like, "Oh man, something," and then they walk up, say something else, and then Optimus Prime is clearly responding to their first conversation, not their second conversation. It doesn't make any sense what he's saying if it's in relation to their second sentence. And I'm like, well, what is going on here? This is like either they didn't catch that, and I'm wondering if the Shout Factory edit fixed that, or maybe they didn't. But it was just really weird. Like another one of those dialogue things where there was a lot of problems. Those are all the ones I caught. Charlie, did you catch anything?
Just wondering how many of those Transformer logo wipes are supposed to happen between scenes throughout the whole thing. Like towards
Yeah,
the
I don't
beginning.
know if it was this episode or the episode afterwards, but actually, no. You know what? Sorry, I got that wrong. Not the logo wipes. There's usually at least 2.
This had like a lot of them. That's why I'm like,
Well, this episode there was a lot. There was a
what
lot
is
of scene transitions. Like they were all over the place in New
And
York.
it didn't make sense to have a transition. Like there's a part where they are headed to Central Park, but they're in the water, and then there's the wipe, and then now they're on the road and they're still headed to Central Park, and then there's another wipe, and then okay, they're finally at Central Park. I'm like,
You know what we need to
why?
show Charlie, right, Thomas? Generation
Oh,
2
no.
episodes. We're walking into the next room. Choo, 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 choo. Rotate theme. Rotate transition. I'm turning on a computer. Quick, a transition
my
from
goodness.
a close-up of the computer, even though it's the same room.
And what's so funny is when Ironhide fell over, there was one right after that. It was so awkward. It just showed him fall on his side, and then da-da-da-da, there was the logo.
Wait, when did he fall?
Well, Rumble
It's like
slash
5
Frenzy
minutes into the show.
Oh, okay.
I'll
in
have to
in the
show.
park.
Let me,
Yeah,
let
I
me
guess
get
I
the
don't
still
actually
of this.
understand the logic of those transitions because now that I think about it, they use that, but sometimes there's transitions clearly to a different scene where they don't use that logo transition.
You
Like,
know what I'm
they-
thinking of? What if
What?
what if they're behind on time? So if you use 2 or 3 more, you're on time.
Oh my god, that's
Uh,
probably what happens. So that's why I couldn't answer it directly because I'm like, sometimes there's only a couple, sometimes there's more than that.
Did they need extra commercial breaks or something? And
So
go
yeah, I think
figure.
Sean nailed it. I think that's probably exactly why it's there.
Uh, Thomas, did you see any other animation errors?
No, there was a logic error though.
Okay, tell me. Or do you want to save
So
that for stupid moments?
I'll save it for stupid moments. Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, no more deleted audio has surfaced for any of the season 2 episodes except 2 more in the future, which we haven't reviewed yet. There were no retcons in this one. And I don't think we need to talk about main character because this was an all over the place, everybody fighting everybody episode. And oddly enough, there's no Megatron energy this episode either. He wasn't making anything for Energon cubes or energy. His whole plan was just to take over New York City and make it a new Cybertron. That was it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, this whole premise at the beginning of the episode was kind of like laid out what he was trying to do. It didn't really make that much sense to me.
Alright, so here we are. Stupid moments.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm not like the others. I do what I want when I want.
Thomas, you can go with your question first since I'm going to have a lot. I think I have like 5 for this one.
So I don't know. I forget what initially caused Megatron to say this, but he was talking about something. Actually, the Autobots. I guess they ended up getting out of the range of Optimus's arm sentry gun. So Soundwave's like the Autobots are out of cannon range. Then Megatron responds, "But not out of my range." So then, he says that you would expect, Megatron to do something with himself or a gun or something. I thought he was going to basically transform it into his gun mode and shoot them or let Soundwave use them. But then all he does is he just calls the Flyers to go after him. So they are out of your range. So now you're calling somebody else to get them for you. Like, what? That didn't make any sense to me. That was just so dumb.
Oh yeah, I actually thought he was going to call Starscream and say, Starscream, get up here and hold me.
Yeah, somebody because I was like, yeah, we just watch a gun that's not capable of shooting behind itself. Maybe get the mobile gun, which is Megatron, and go after them.
Yeah.
That's
So,
it.
yeah, my first one was like, how did Megatron build a secret base for giant freaking robots under New York City without anyone ever becoming suspicious? Like, they would have to be
Those
so many.
Constructicons are good. Like, I felt the
They're
same
fast.
way, and I just was like, don't think about it. Just don't think about it.
Plus, they made a completely separate Cybertronian building underground so that they could steal the Empire State Building and then swap it with the Cybertron building. So that whole freaking Cybertron building was also underground somewhere. And like nobody
Just
heard it
pressed it
being
over
constructed. Nobody like noticed like or
I
like
thought
how did
it
they
just
even get
crossed
it?
it over with robot parts. Like I thought they just come together and like just autonomously build themselves over things and
Mhm.
make it like a big crusty barnacle of a building.
A shell.
Yeah. Were you saying that they think that they just built on top of the Empire State Building, or was that a new building?
Yeah. Just
Well, that
built
was
on
my
top of it, that's what
impression.
I was
But
thinking.
I don't remember quite that well. But yeah,
Mhm.
my initial impression was that they pulled down the Empire State Building and now they're just using Mixmaster to just like put plates all over it or something.
Oh, okay.
Because there
Yeah.
were definitely other buildings that they created, but they definitely didn't take those on the ground. So when the Constructicons ended up above ground, they were transforming existing buildings.
Yeah, because they did do that with the other ones, putting stuff on top of the other ones. Because Starscream's just sitting there on top of another building, and then that's all he does the whole episode, except, scream uncle. This one didn't make sense in the beginning, where Optimus is like, oh man, we gotta go immediately. And he says, Sparkplug, please leave a message. I'm like, can't Teletran 1 leave messages? It's like, it can't be like, I detect Jazz in the room. Now I'm gonna play a message for Jazz. I mean, were Wheeljack and everyone else on patrol? Or were they literally just in another room in the Ark? And Optimus just didn't want to take the extra time to go and get them. And was like, oh god, it's an emergency, gotta go now. And
Hey, they didn't have Alexa back then, so they didn't know, about all the capabilities, the possibilities of AI.
yeah, or they didn't even have an intercom system. They could be like, beep, everyone on the ship, we're heading out for New York City right now. He just is like, oh, leave a message, he'll find it someday. Oh. And it was also weird, the detection. Scrapper's like, Optimus is overhead. I'm like, can he detect specific life forms, this Constructicon? Or is he just detecting, like, a big robot and must assume it's Optimus? So I was like, alright, sure, you know exactly that it's Optimus.
I wonder if I missed them putting a tracer on Optimus or something. Like they had GPS coordinates for him or something. I had no clue how they did that.
Maybe they were because they still had control over his arm. Maybe they were still able to track him that way.
Yeah.
His arm was snitching on the rest of Optimus's body.
And another stupid moment is, how did Megatron know Optimus and the Autobots were going to Central Park? He doesn't know they're going to Central Park, but his Decepticons show up in Central Park before they do, or to set up an ambush. I'm like, unless Laserbeak, overheard their radio discussion when,
think it was
Mirage is like,
Laserbeak.
we gotta go to Central Park. I mean, he was in the area, so.
The reason for the water scene, I think, was just to show that Laserbeak saw them in the water. It was like, oh, they're headed for Central Park for sure, even though there had to be another transition and some time on the road before they actually got to Central Park.
Yeah.
But actually, another 2 transitions.
Well,
Yeah, go figure.
usually in media, the only place that exists when people say New York is Manhattan. So naturally, the Autobots, they knew that they had to go to New York to get Optimus, so they started in the center. And there you go.
And worked their way to the rest of New York, which is only south of Central Park. I have one more, but do you guys have any other stupid moments?
Ugh, that gator stuff. Oh my god.
You didn't think it
Like
was
the
funny?
the alligator parts got so weird. Like Spike and was it Bumblebee was helping lure the gator into the no, somebody else. I can't remember who was helping. They lure the gator into the train car and Spike's like, "Yay!" And
It doesn't. I do remember too that I think, is it Wheeljack or Prowl? He's like, next stop, the ocean. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh,
They go
he
to
was like
these trains don't just drive till they hit a wall and fly out into the ocean.
it seemed like he was quoting some old conductor's whatever announcement or something for trains like in the old days, like next stop Lexington, then the river. And it's like
Oh yeah, he was saying
what?
all those street names.
Yeah. The other thing was when they went to retrieve the Optimus parts from the gator, why the heck did why was everybody like in unison like this alligator is big and heavy? What was that about? 3 people said that all at once, and I'm just like, is that some sort of joke from something else, or
They followed it up with something else, but I can't remember what they said. Something about Optimus, and then he's like, maybe a little both. Like, I think he's trying to joke with them. Because,
yeah.
but...
That was just really odd. I'm like, what are they
Well, even
talking
Soundwave
about?
gets in and makes a joke this episode, when he ambushes them, right?
Oh yeah.
And cold Soundwave comes up and, says the end of a joke that Frenzy was saying.
What was that?
I don't know, some New York joke. Or
I
forest
can't remember what
joke.
it was, but I
Yeah.
did catch that.
So, the last stupid moment I had is just... when I see them walking in the sewers, it's Mirage and Hound, and they have these giant These giant, just giant missiles on their shoulders. Why are you carrying these giant missiles into New York City, a heavy populated city, under the city? If these go off, you're basically going to kill thousands upon thousands of people and collapse the entire mini city blocks under the subway. What is wrong with you guys?
Well, I would expect that of Bloodthirsty Hound. I guess we're gonna have to add Mirage to the list of bloodthirsty Autobots, where they just don't care. They just have to kill the Decepticons by any means necessary.
What made you think Hound is now bloodthirsty?
Hound was always bloodthirsty. Hound has been shown to be, even in the show, but I think the first time was with the book that we read, where he was captured and like he kept just like trying to go after the Decepticons. Well, I think he got captured because he wanted to go after them himself.
He's the one that wanted to assassinate Megatron in the head with his sniper rifle in the very first episode.
That too, yeah, exactly.
Well, he
wanted to do it alone, and
something.
I think that's how he got the Laserbeak. He ended up, I don't know, Laserbeak tricked him or something like that. So yeah, Hound was one of the first ones. It was Cliffjumper, then it was Hound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and like Hound was, I could have sworn Hound was drawn differently because why has he just got this giant white thing on his chest? His holograms aren't a part of him; they're just like a piece on his chest, even though they're supposed to be his power. Or like I could have sworn it was always colored green or gray, not just pure white. Unless they tried to save time by like never coloring it, being like, people will never notice.
Supposed to be a military Jeep, right? That's what I thought he was.
Yeah. Character Spotlight. Since we've gone through every Transformer on the Autobot and Decepticon side except for one Autobot for a future episode for Thomas exclusively, are going to do Teletran 1 as the Character Spotlight, the computer that's always being used by the Autobots aboard the Ark. So
that's I guess I probably would have used Teletran 1 for the next episode because I have some questions.
When did Teletran 1 get a name? Like, when did we start calling him that?
They do that since the very first episode, I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice. For some reason, it just stood out to me in these episodes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he has no quote or description because he has no action figure from the 80s. But basically, Teletran 1 is the non-sentient computer on board the Ark which monitors all known Earth television, radio waves, and telephone lines for evidence of Decepticon activity. Why the Autobots need to even go on patrol because of him is a mystery. Basically, in the beginning of the three-parter, Teletran 1 was damaged, couldn't discern friend from foe, so when the Ark reawakened along with the Teletran 1 computer, it repaired all Autobots and Decepticons equally. Does anyone want to read the fate of Teletran 1 after the movie?
All right. Teletran 1's fate after the movie. After the movie, the season 3 5-parter has Trypticon go back to Earth where the Autobots were still using the Ark as a secondary base. Trypticon destroys the Ark, the entire volcano, and Teletran 1. Wow. In Hitmasters, Teletran 1 was either rebuilt from that explosion or a new computer was created based on the original Teletran 1 design and is used on the Autobot base on planet Athenia. Since it was only mentioned once in the entire series, it's possible this was a writer's error. That's wild.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Teletran 1 is dead. Because if it's only mentioned once throughout a whole series, I don't really buy that being Teletran 1.
Though Teletran 2 is in an Autobot city, it is assumed to be a separate program. Teletran 2 is used in Season 3. It was originally voiced by Casey Kasem, and he had already recorded lines for it.
Wow.
When he left the show, and the lines were re-recorded by somebody else.
Because he left the show because of the really racist episode that was coming up that he disagreed with.
So, I guess Teletran 2, well, I guess that answers the original question that Teletran 1 was dead, and it probably was a writer's error. Since I guess apparently there is a Teletran 2. Do they?
Yeah, because that's used
do they
in
call
season
it
3.
Teletran 2? Like, are there lines voiced?
Yeah, they call it Teletran 2 when they in Autobot City when they're on Earth. Because I know in season 3 they're on Cybertron a lot, but Teletran 2 is used on Autobot City. But now I got something. Charlie, do you want to try to read the next 2 paragraphs without cringing?
Oh, sure. Without
Yeah,
cringing.
I've fallen
Okay.
ill. I'm not going to be able to make it through myself.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Before the movie, i.e., Kiss Players, there was a Teletran 10 and a Teletran 15, both of which were in humanoid robot bodies of girls. Oh, great. Of course, that kept in contact with Teletron 1 to be living extensions of Teletron 1. What their tasks are is not really clear. Strangely, Teletron 10 exists to repair other Teletrans and is always angry. And Teletran 15 was created to monitor a satellite computer, even though she is one and is shy and clumsy. Oh, even though she is one, she is a satellite computer. Is that what it's saying?
I don't said that she monitors the computers and the satellite computers. I was like, well, why? That's what. Can't you just have Teletran 1 auto do that? Like, or is Teletran 1 out of memory? So that's why you created this Teletran 15
He scanned all the TV and radio waves and ran out of space.
and then ran out of space. So then they had to make another
So
one
they,
for
they had to make
satellites.
these daughter boards, like daughter computer
Uh,
banks extensions.
yeah.
Humanoid robot bodies of girls.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Wow.
Kiss
So do you want
Players, oh god.
to try to read? Oh, the next one is just the lore, so it's not any more Kiss Players. If you want to read that.
I see one more Kiss Players at the bottom. I don't know what that's gonna be. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, but yeah, it's okay. It's nothing bad.
um, let's see. The original script of the series listed Teletran 1 as a female computer. It seems not everyone got the changes because in the Transformers comic, the face on the computer screen is a golden female face with green eyes. It's called the ARC computer, though it is called Auntie once by accident. Oh, which is the original name the computer was to be called until it was decided to call the computer name the same as the ship.
Yeah, and
How
like
you
they made
accidentally
and it doesn't
called
make sense because
Auntie?
I actually thought they called it Auntie in the comics because I read Regeneration, which was 20 issues 5 to 10 years ago. They made a sequel to the original Marvel comics, and they actually called the computer Auntie. So I thought that was what they had called it in the past, but no, I look it up and they only called it that once, but decided to use it as canon. And I'm just like, sure, okay.
Call it Auntie. Ugh. That's very well, I guess it's very Japanese, right? There's if there's a hot older woman who's like, your computer and she's your auntie, I guess. Figure.
What's funny is in the Kiss Players book, there's an extra sketch of a glowing female head, which looks like it was an unused idea of making Teletran 1 have its own humanoid form to interact with the other Teletran girls.
Oh my god.
So, but yeah, what's weird is there is a paper figure of Teletran 1 in a playset. It came into existence in 2014. It's a paper playset included with Dinobots 4-pack. And the first Teletran 1 action figure came out this year, the year 2021. And it's called the Autobot Arc. And it's basically the entire arc of the Transformers, and it can transform into a large Transformer robot, and it can also transform into a large supercomputer that is Teletran 1. And it comes with both golden discs from the Beast Wars storylines, the Sky Spy drone used in early Season 1 episodes, and also comes with like fire attachments for his guns and a mini Optimus Prime to ride inside of him.
Okay, that's a
It's
lot of
toy, it's
different
actually pretty
features.
fun looking. It's not so bad.
It seems like it's missing a key feature. Is there some kind of like battle damage or sections that just blow up? Because that's something that always happens to Teletran 1. That thing is always getting shot up.
Yeah,
Or
or Optimus punches it like he does in the
Yeah.
next episode.
Just punch the console and just yeah. Well, think of Batman's computer system too. That thing takes a lot of damage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whether
And
it's
now
Alfred
the
spraying gas on it or
yeah, and the figure makes sense too because now that I've seen the Netflix series, but I'll try not to make any more spoilers if you haven't seen it yet, Thomas.
Nope.
All right. So that was Teletran 1. Any thoughts, questions about Teletran 1 in this series? Or just he's a part of the show, not really a character?
Nope. That's it for me. I'll
Okay.
save my thoughts for the next episode.
And also, Charlie, this isn't the first Transformer that was supposed to be a female. Ratchet was originally designed to be a female Transformer too, but that idea was scrapped when they actually started developing everything on the show.
it was going to be a nurse, probably a nurse transformer.
Yeah, but then I guess people had the idea like, well, if there's one, how will we explain it exists? That's too much trouble. Get rid of it. But anyway, that was our exciting episode of Steel Autobots? Autobots? Steel City? What is this episode called, Thomas? Save me.
City of Steel.
City of Steel. All right. So, we hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode. Signing off for now, this is Sean.
Charlie.
And Thomas.
Good night.